Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and this is a 5-minute review of Gran Torino from 2008. Clint Eastwood stars and directs the film, which is about a retired man who recently has lost his wife and he's struggling to come to terms with his age and also the changes in his neighbourhood when a family moves in next door, a family from South China whose culture and everything else about them is completely unknown to him. All Walt wants to do is live his life and be left alone, but the problems of next door's teenage son and daughter spill onto his lawn and he wants them just to go away. Almost against his best wishes, he's drawn into the family disputes and the problem that the two children are having with a local gang. At the beginning of the film, Walt is quite racist and he's quite curmudgeonly and uncomfortable with change. But as he begins to learn more about the people and their culture and where they're coming from and also their problems, he begins to realise that they're not too different from him in many ways. The irony is that he doesn't get on with his own family and he doesn't know how to relate to them, and yet he's sort of been given a second chance with these two teenage children who are just struggling with becoming an adult and all of the problems that are facing them in the wider world, like getting a job, racism, and even how to talk to girls. In many ways, this is quite an uncomfortable film because it doesn't shy away from some of the difficult problems in society, particularly around casual racism and integrating different cultures. If this were a softer film, by the end of it, Walt would have been very happy, he wouldn't be as grumpy as before, and everything would be great. But the character doesn't really change so much as he learns a little bit more about the people, but he's still the same grumpy person that he was at the start. For the most part, this is a slow drama, but when there are action scenes, they're very, very violent and extremely upsetting because you've been lulled into this false sense of security where nothing is really going to happen to the characters. But as I mentioned, it's quite brutal at times, and so is the world, and the film doesn't shy away from that. For all of the issues that he's faced in his life, Walt quickly realises that the children have it much worse because of the many pressures that are on them from both society but also their own culture. On the surface, the film seems quite a simple story, but as you spend more time with the characters, you realise that, as well as talking about culture and modern society, there's also a strand about faith in the film because Walt's late wife wanted him to go to church and go to confession, and one of the characters that he regularly runs into is a young priest who doesn't seem to understand Walt's reluctance or his lack of faith. There's definitely a commentary on some level about gun violence and gangs in America and the way ordinary people have to try and deal with them and just get on with their lives. In the hands of a different director, the film would have become a political statement, but Eastwood doesn't focus on this, he just leaves you to make up your own mind and doesn't try to convince you one way or the other. One of the writers of the film, Nick Schenk, worked on this, and more recently he worked on The Mule, another film that Clint Eastwood both directed and starred in, where an ordinary person is forced into extraordinary circumstances, and then we see how they cope. The acting in the film is excellent across the board, and they're all relative unknowns apart from Clint Eastwood. By the time you get to the end of the film, I was quite reluctant to leave because you come to care about the characters, which is testament to both the acting but also the excellent script. You're invested in their fate because the film is quite emotional with some very big highs and lows. Even though the film came out over 10 years ago, this is something that I revisit every now and then because it is such a powerful film for so many different reasons, some of which I can't explain because of spoilers. There isn't anything about this film that I don't like, so because it has such a great script, solid acting, and it's very emotional, I'm going to have to give it 5 out of 5 bags. If you've seen Gran Torino, then let us know, post a comment, get in touch with us via email, Facebook or Twitter. All of the links are down below, and don't forget to subscribe and like the channel.